wasn't able to kind of make decisions and stand by them. I had a really deep sense of sort of imposter syndrome. My confidence sort of plummeted. I was kind of questioning myself, things that I was doing.
Because the moment I was like, no, I'm not going on payroll, I need to invoice. They were like, oh, and let's add, I had my child at 16. So I was more like, no, I can't do that. They're like, child, why is everything wrong with you? You're holding a baby and holding an invoice.
And I spent the money on the offices, and we were getting it all kitted out, and we had a launch and everything. And literally within 4 weeks, the turnover plummeted. And I kept thinking next month it'll be better, and started ploughing in money to keep the business going, to keep the staff on.
I didn't really have that much money. I had my savings, but I don't come from a family of privilege. I come from a working class family. So I had all of these kind of barriers that at the time I didn't realise were barriers. I just got on with it and just moved. I moved without thinking. I had an idea.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss, Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I'm joined by phenomenal women from the world of entrepreneurship, those get up and goers who got up and decided to go it alone and start their own businesses. As usual, if you haven't already pressed that subscribe button, please make sure that you do now so that you're the first to know when I release a new interview. And if you're not following on social media, why not? Please go over to Instagram and like She's the Boss UK. On Twitter, it's She's the Boss INTL. I'm also on Facebook, Daniela Genus, She's the Boss, and LinkedIn, Daniela Genus. And also have She's the Boss LinkedIn page now. And that's She's the Boss International. So make sure you check that out, where I share blogs, hints and tips and resources to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. So today, I'm really excited because my guest today is my first guest from Zambia. I am joined by Chulu Chansa, who is the founder of Africana Woman. Chulu, thank you so much for joining me.
Daniela, thank you. I'm honored. I'm excited.
So tell us, who are you? What is Africana Woman? What led you to starting the business? What was your inspiration?
Okay, that's a lot.
Yes, it is. I like to start with the big question so I can get into the nitty-gritty of who you are.
Let's see if I can mash it up. So my name is Chulu Chansa, and I am, like Daniela said, I'm from Zambia, and I founded the Africana Woman. Actually, I founded it with 3 friends in 2017, and we had just come off a program called Yali, and it's about youth leadership in Africa, and we wanted to do something that was impactful for our community. So we were 3 African women, and we decided to start a blog that tells the stories and, just talks about the complexities about being an African woman wherever you are. I am from Zambia, and my friends were from Zimbabwe and Mozambique. Mm-hmm. So we started the blog, and as life would have it, it kind of fizzled out, and that was in 2017. And some years later, years down the line, I guess start 2019, I had been through a series of events, I can say. So just to give you a little bit of background, I am a creative at heart. I've always been entrepreneurial, and that's just my mind just goes that way. I remember when I was a child in primary school, I actually used to rent my books because I love to read. And I used to rent my books to the other kids until my mother found out, and then she cut that off. In secondary, in secondary, like I said, I was artistic. I used to make pictures, and people would buy them and gift them to their families, or I was in a boarding school. So, sweets and tuck and things like that were kind of hard to come by. So I would bring some and sell those. So I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. It was just something that comes naturally to me. And I've been working for a company that is in the line of what I love to do also. And in 2019, I experienced anxiety attacks. So I was depressed, and I didn't understand why. Basically, I had, on the outside, I looked like I was okay. I got the job, I got the house, I got the car, I got all of those nice things. And, even when I'm telling it, like before, I was trying to articulate to people that, something is missing, something is wrong, and I need to do more. If that makes sense, because the job that I was working for is it's a good job. It pays well, but it's kind of like people become complacent. It's one of those, I say in our foreign colloquial, they say you've arrived, so you kind of arrive, and then you just sit there, and then you put your legs up, and I'm just like, how is this existing? Like, you cannot live like this. So I found myself depressed in 2019, and I didn't understand why. And basically, I was not living a purposeful life. And I started a journey of basically rediscovering myself as an individual, and also just discovering what is it that I want to do? What is the bigger picture for my life? What is the vision that I want to have? Who do I want to become? Because if just sitting here in an office day after day is not enough, what is enough? Because it's easy to say, like, I don't know, to say I know what I don't want, but then what do you want?
Yeah.
Right. And that can be a process that can take time. And so what happened was I was invited to do a talk for a private community that I'm part of. And the topic that I did was African women, past, present, the power of African women, past, present, future. And from that, in the questions and answers, people were asking me, well, would you be interested in documenting people's story, women's stories, African women's stories? And I just went on there to do the talk. It was just like, okay. But I guess a seed was planted. And part of my journey was also joining a mastermind. And, I was letting the ladies know that, this is how the talk went, and, and I started juggling with the idea of, I might want to do a blog, because I've always thought about writing a book. So, a blog would be good to kind of figure out my style of writing and things like that. And I was encouraged by the community to say, okay, you're a good writer, because like I write. When I write something, when you have, I don't know if you're like in WhatsApp groups, and then there's always that person who like writes a whole
That's
essay.
me.
That's me. That is me. So, they're like, no, you're really good at writing. So I thought, okay, let me do that. So then I remembered the Africana Woman blog that we had started in 2017. And I approached my friends and said, listen, I would love to take this back on and start it up. I don't know where it's going, but I think I'm being called to do this. So in April 2020, the Africana Woman blog was born. And after some time, I started doing some interviews on Instagram of phenomenal African women from across the world. And our focus is, just to tell the stories behind the closed doors, because it's easy to see things from an outside perspective and just make assumptions, but then what's really going on behind the doors? So those are the types of conversations I have. So I was having these conversations on Instagram, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Why don't I make it a podcast? So that's how the podcast was born. And then in December, one thing that I saw was lacking or missing in, I guess, the entrepreneurial body was just a sense of community and knowing who can support you. Because if you're in the corporate world, and especially after having a year like 2020 when COVID just came and just, wiped everybody out, in one way or another. if you're in a corporate setting, you're in a company, it's very easy to still have that support, to still have that teamwork and say, okay, guys, how do we regroup? How do we push forward? But then if you're an entrepreneur, an African female entrepreneur, especially in those early years, when you're just starting, you're doing everything by yourself. You're doing the marketing, you've got all the hats on by yourself. And having a year like 2020 could make you feel even more lonely. So we created a community called the Africana Woman Visionaries that is there to support African entrepreneurs, and just bring us together to be able to hold each other accountable, to be able to network, share ideas, and support each other. We bring in mentors that give workshops and classes, and it's really just about not feeling that you have to do everything by yourself and knowing where you can go and get help. So that's how the Africana Woman Visionaries was born. In a nutshell.
I love the title. I love Africana Women Visionaries. I love that. It just sounds like such a powerful group to be a part of. So well done. So you've obviously gone down this route. What happened with the employment? Are you still in employment?
Mm-hmm.
You leave employment?
Yeah. Okay. So some more depth to the story is, I had started. Okay, so if you're in Africa, for the most part, most people are, they've got a full-time job, so that formal employment, and then you've got your side hustle, which people would say, oh, I eventually wanted to become my main hustle. So I had started a business with my mother, and we had a cake designing company. A wedding cake designing company, and she happened to leave the country in 2019, mid 2019. She went to be with my sister in Canada, and then I was left with the company alone. And so this is my side hustle, guys. Stay with me. So yeah, but what I actually realized is that as much as I'm a creative person, and I'm a very creative person, I'm good with my hands, I love artistic things. And even in last year, I actually was nominated for Best Wedding Cake Designer in Zambia. So but in as much as, I'm a creative person, the business wasn't so much something that I was truly passionate about. It was something that I did with my mother because by the time we started, she had retired. And then she was like, oh, I'm going to be bored. I said, okay, why don't we do the cake thing? Because she had been baking for a very long time. So she used to focus on the baking part, and I used to focus on the designing part. And then now I was left with all eggs in my hands, and it just was not giving me joy. And I had to make a difficult decision, and I decided to close the company. That was in the end of 2020. I also, I'm still working, but I decided that because I want to focus on Africana Woman, I decided to take less hours. So I cut back on my formal employment so that I can put in more hours and dedicate more time to what really gives me joy.
The idea of the side hustle thing and the formal employment, it's not just Africa, that's many places, because a lot of people over here, it's the same thing. I suppose it's about looking at multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
When you decided to close the cake business, how did your mom take that? Was she fussed or?
I think everybody, because it's successful. It's not that it's not a successful business, you know what I mean? And I think everybody was panicking. My mother was also unsure, and at the end of the day, because she's still not around, and I just cannot sustain doing it anymore. And you'd have to understand also the economical situation in Zambia is that we have in the last 2.5 years, we were experiencing drought, which meant we rely on hydroelectric power. And that meant that we had serious power cuts. And that would be anywhere from 8 hours to 12 hours every day. There's no schedule. You can't plan around it. I was burning the candle on both ends. I was literally losing my mind. I would be at work in the morning to afternoon, and then I would have to do the cakes, talking about 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. It was just not sustainable. And when Corona did happen, all of, because it's a wedding cake business, all of my clients basically dropped. I had a team, and all of the contracts were basically, just cut off abruptly, and no income was coming in because it's a wedding. You cannot gather as in crowds. So it's not like we can force the matter. So I had to let go of my team as well. And when things did open up, I think at that time I had actually then just decided that, okay, this is something that I want to phase out of anyway. Yeah.
In terms of the team, so I always find it interesting to talk to business owners who have managed staff and recruited staff and got rid of staff or let them go, because I think that's one of the major challenges that a lot of small business owners face. It's managing people. What would you say are some of the greatest lessons you learned going through that process of managing people and of having to let people go?
I think the first time that somebody left, I was quite offended. I was like, oh my God, you left me? Like, I took it personally, like you were personally leaving me. But that's not really it. It's, I think you have to understand that it is your business, and you are most likely the person that's going to be most constant in that business. But then there are other times when the people that you do work with will eventually, move on and have to will transition into something else. So not to take it personally. I think one of the lessons I learned was really about setting up systems so as the transition is easier. So as, when the next person is coming in, it's not, you have to start training somebody like from scratch. At least if there is some training material that the previous person had left behind, or, there's a handover, whatever it is, just set up a system that makes your transition much more easier. I think, what else did I learn? But also, I think just being very articulate, trying to be as articulate as possible, because there's sometimes when I say something and I think the person has heard it the way that I'd like it done, but then when they actually go to do the work, it's like completely different. So taking the time to make sure that you're both on the same page, because you could have said something, but they've heard it completely different. So just say, okay, let's just go over what, reiterate to me, what did you hear me say? Basically, sort of, yeah.
I think that's really good advice, particularly the systems bit. So with my business, one of the services that I offer is that process of helping businesses map out their processes and their systems so that they are able to onboard staff more quickly. Because so many small business owners, when they're trying to kind of grow and make that leap to becoming employers, they don't have the systems and processes in place. And as you said, they then spend a lot of time training and then realize actually having staff is becoming more of a hindrance than not having staff, because I still have all of my work to do and now I'm training somebody else how they should do it. Then when that person leaves, because there's nothing in place to document what they've been doing, we have to go through that process again. So I think I love that you shared that, because so many people just don't have it as a priority.
But can I add as well, something that I had a challenge with was because I had been doing most of the work by myself for a very long time, having somebody else do it, I had a lot of judgment around that. Because I've been sitting there going, listen, this doesn't take that long. It should be in this and this hours. It should be done in this and this way. This is so easy. But I think, you have to give people grace to learn and grow into whatever you have handed over to them. Yes, you've been doing it for a long time. And, because you have been doing it for a long time, that's why to you it seems easy. And for the person that's coming in, that's the first time. So at least have a grace period in your mind, in that judgment eye, that you will allow them and give them the grace to learn and grow, and then hopefully they will get it to the way you know it.
I love that, because it's so true, and particularly when you have been doing things, you can become very particular, and this is why so many people find it so difficult to delegate, because it's, well, I can do it better, or I can do it quicker, or I want it done this way, and they're not going to do it that way. But you really do have to, if you really have growth aspirations, and even if you just want to live a healthy, well-rounded, not losing my mind type of life, you have to let go of the reins, and as you said, appreciate that it may take them time to get it exactly how you want it. But also, maybe how you want it isn't the best way. Maybe the way they're going to do it might be a better way of doing it. And I think we need to remain open to that as a possibility and an option. So thank you for that. Have you, so now you've kind of moved into this new space, and you spoke at the beginning about this kind of idea of purpose. And I'm really passionate about everybody finding their purpose and walking in that purpose. You now believe that you found it. How does it feel when you wake up in the morning, knowing that you're doing something that you are supposed to be doing?
So I need you to understand the hell that I came from. I used to wake up with a start, like literally every day. And I never used to sleep a lot as well. I was sleeping on average 3 to 4 hours. Like I said, I was having anxiety attacks. I found myself literally in a car, and I was at a mall in the parking lot, and I just had started crying hysterically. It was awful. It was awful. So one of the things when I started this journey, and I said to myself, what do I want? And the word that came up was, I want peace. So when I look at right now and understanding that I am living a purposeful life, it just feels so peaceful. It feels my body feels different. I've become more intentional about how much I sleep. So right now, like literally my body is trained. It like literally just shuts down at 9 p.m. and I wake up early. So I wake up around 4 a.m. But I'm getting more hours of sleep. When I do wake up, I'm not waking up with, that anxiety. And I just go through the day in a more relaxed and orderly space, and especially mind frame. Well, I guess in all spaces, like my body feels good, my emotions feel regulated, and my spirit also feels calm.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you are able to differentiate between the feelings then and the feelings now, and recognize that the difference is because you are living in purpose, walking in purpose and living a purposeful life. And I really wanted you to share that, because I think there may be people sitting at home watching, listening, who are in a similar position that you were before, and waking up with a start and probably feel like they don't know which direction to turn. And actually sometimes it is about kind of stopping, taking stock, identifying whether what you're doing is working for you, and actually if it's not, having a plan to determine, what do I need to do to be able to work out what is going to work for me, what is going to fill me up and make me feel like I'm living an intentional life. So well done to you.
Thank you.
Well done, definitely, for sure. So in starting kind of Africana Woman, and particularly with the mastermind group, how have you engaged with women who potentially, because I know that, and I don't know if it's the same in Zambia, but I know here there is sometimes a negative perception of kind of business support and coaching, and we're giving money, but really, are we getting anything out? Is that something that is the same in Zambia? And if so, how have you kind of navigated that to ensure that people trust in what you're providing?
Yeah, no, it is definitely a challenge. But I would say one of the beauties about Africana Woman is that it is for all African women. So we have, women in Malaysia, on the continent, in North America, Europe. So it's really about bringing all these different women together. And I think one thing that Corona has definitely proved is that we don't have any more boundaries because of this wonderful internet. So that's been wonderful. But certainly in Zambia, it is there is a challenge in, getting people to understand the value of that coaching and that mentoring. And it's something that we're working through. It's just a constant having a conversation and, educating people about it. I mean, to be honest, as the actual launch of the program, it only launched. So we had like a pre-launch in December, and then we launched in January. So we've only been existing as a community, as an Africana Woman Visionaries community, for a month and 5 days.
Well done either way. And well done for being able to tackle it. So I want to do kind of a quick fire round now. This is something new. So you're the first person I've tested this on.
Ooh, okay. Let's do it.
Let's go. I feel happiest when?
I feel happiest when I am in nature, and I'm not a camper. I'm not a camper, guys. I love a nicely manicured garden, and it's cute, and but I love beautiful things. I love a beautiful garden, and just being out there and just soaking up everything. I'm happiest then.
Me too. This is probably a really random question and not anything to do with the interview, really and truly. But I don't know what the climate like is in Zambia. What is the weather like generally?
It's beautiful. Right now we're in our rainy season, and like I mentioned before, we had a drought, but this year it has rained and rained and rained. So we're happy to see the rain. And it's just beautiful. Like even when it's the winter months, because technically we have 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And even when it's the cold, we call it cold month because we can't follow the winter, autumn, and all of that. So when it's the cold season, it doesn't really mean cold because by the time you're getting to noon, like 12 p.m., it's sweltering hot, So it's lovely. Like I love the sun. I feel like when I travel, I always say the sun travels with me. So yeah.
Not traveling with me. We're in the UK and it's not sunny. And we have winter, a long winter, and it's cold. I feel angriest about.
Ooh. I feel angriest. Wow. I feel angriest about when someone doesn't feel empowered to make a change in their life, or they don't think they deserve it, and or they don't have the resources. I wish people were more empowered and more and knew that they were not alone in whatever situation they're going through, and that they can find help from somewhere. Like I feel angry when someone says, I don't have any other option. There's always an option. Okay, that's what it was.
I agree. And for me, I think injustice is kind of a byproduct of that. When I feel like injustice is taking place, that really stresses me out and gets me angry. Right, so I want you to fill in the blank. Blank is overrated. What is blank? What is overrated?
Okay. Let's see. Wow. I think power is overrated.
Oh, really? Tell me more. Why?
I think, there's a distorted definition of power, especially when you come from a country that was colonized, and where it has been internalized that power means oppression, power means that you have to put someone down, belittle them, subjugate them. So it's totally overrated. I think influence is much more beneficial. And if you are intentional about the way you influence somebody, I think that can make the world better.
What a wonderful answer. I love that. Your greatest extravagance?
Whew. My greatest extravagance. Let's see. Okay, so my greatest extravagance is, wow, I love jewelry and I love headscarves. I remember because I actually went to school in the UK, and I remember traveling, and there's a time when my bag was just full of scarves and jewelry. And people are like, "This is what you came back with."
And it's a beautiful scarf that you're wearing. I was going to comment on that, but you missed out a whole piece of this whole interview. You schooled in the UK.
Yeah. I was in Wales for 2 years, and then I was in the States for 5 years.
So you're a traveler.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
How did you find adjusting to UK life? Because as I said, it's cold here. It's raining. Particularly in Wales, it's raining.
I know. In Wales, I always laugh that in Wales we used to see the 4 seasons in one day. Like I promise, there was one day where it snowed a little, it rained, it was sunny, everything in one day. But I think it was. I went to an international school, which was a little bit of a bubble. And, it was kind of like this cocoon world. But in the summer, I would come up to London, and I had family, or, I had a link family in Swansea, and my best friend, she's from Wrexham, and now she's in Manchester. So those are kind of the places that I frequented. And it was interesting. I think for me, one of the things that I always found a little bit hard was just how, especially like in the city, like how small the spaces are. Because in Zambia, we grow out, like everything is this way, but you guys like
grow up, yeah.
You guys grow up this way, and and then the spaces were small. People are staying in studios. I'm just like, I don't know about this, guys. But it was definitely, I think it was an adventure, and it was good to experience something different.
No, I love that. The thing about yourself that you have had to learn to love.
I think my personality. I have always been very independent, very, I wouldn't say loud, but strong. And especially in a cultural context, that gets pushed back because, you're a woman, you have to be softer.
By the way, I can relate. So obviously
more polite. I don't know.
Too rough. Be soft. Why can't you be gentle? Because I'm not.
I think for a very long time I struggled, and I held back who I was, and I wasn't exactly free. So it depends on what situation I'd find myself in, and I'll have to judge and say, okay, maybe in this situation I have to be less of who I am, or and only my really, really good friends have experienced the fullness of me, and I think I had to just accept that, this is me, this is the full package, take it or leave it. I remember even when I started writing the blog, I think maybe 3 posts in the comments, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he told me, I feel like you're holding back. And I said, I don't think people are ready for all of me. And he said, no, just go ahead and just let it out, just be you. And from then, it's just been amazing, and just really just accepting me. And if people don't accept me, then, well, we're not meant to
What an amazing point when you reach there to say, actually, this is me, like it, love it, don't like it, I don't care. This is who I am, and I'm going to be me unapologetically. I can really relate to that so strongly because, yeah, I don't necessarily fit in the mold of the dainty little woman that should just be in the corner and be quiet. I have, even just my voice alone, I have quite a deep and strong voice, and people sometimes are quite like taken aback by that. I'm just like, that's why I'm called She's the Boss.
Exactly.
So the final quick fire round question: the worst piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Interesting. The worst piece of advice I've ever been given. Oh, I'm actually not sure. I feel like I probably chucked them to the side, and then I remember the best ones. I remember the best ones, but not necessarily the worst ones. The worst piece of advice. Well, I guess, when I was talking about trying to tell people that what I'm feeling is hollow, and what I'm feeling is that I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely more out there. And people would say to me, you've got the job, what are you complaining about? Just sit down, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit down. Mm-hmm. That was the worst piece of advice, because I did follow that for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. I just sort of like suppressed it, and then it would come up again, suppressed it until it just came and hit me in the face, like, do something about it. And I think for that, it's really about, for what I learned from that was, I need to trust myself. I need to trust my intuition and my body. Like, if it doesn't feel right, then it's not right for me. It may be right for somebody else, but I need to trust myself. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
That was really powerful, actually. And this is the thing, when you receive poor advice, it is really incumbent of you to be able to differentiate between whether this is something that is going to help you, or is it something that they feel comfortable with. Because actually, sometimes people give you bad advice, and it's not because they wish bad for you, it's because they don't know what is right for you, what is good for you, and they only know what they know. Mm-hmm. But it's for you to be able to discern between advice that is useful and advice that is kind of misguided. So yeah, that is a nice segue actually into the final two questions. Three pieces of advice. So 3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's watching, listening, wants to start their own business, or who are in the early stages of their business. What advice would you give to them?
Okay, so I would love to give advice first to somebody who has got many interests, because I am somebody who, like, I'm everywhere. It's like music, art, this, that, design. Where do you start from? But I think, especially if you're younger and you feel like you do have the time, just try it all. Don't feel like you have to box yourself in, and then if you do that thing, that's the one thing you're going to get stuck with. I feel that it's so important to just go out there, try out the different things, see what you learn, and even all the experiences, there is something that you will pick up that is going to help you and bless you in some way. For example, when I tell you my career, I started off with fundraising and public relations, and then I went into administration, and I was an office manager, and then I became a hotel manager, and then I was organizing a festival for the Francophone community, and then I went into an education system. Completely different. Plus, I have a cake business. Like, I literally have been everywhere. But when you look at what I'm doing right now, and I think I should articulate what my purpose is. My purpose is, I am a community person. I bring people together, and I especially love to bring women and African women, to bring them in a sustainable community and to celebrate our diversity. So when you look at all of the experiences that I've had, when I was doing the office administration, now it's very easy for me to put the business together and be organized, have those systems together. When I was a hotel manager, I bring in that hospitality and customer service. And, you know, when people are dealing with me, they're just like, oh, you're so warm. Well, that's part of my history. No, I didn't stay in the hotel industry, but it's something that I picked up along the way. So, you know, even all of these experiences that you think you will not necessarily need or will use later on, you just never know how it comes together and makes sense later. So that's the first one. The second one is start small and don't be afraid to scale up slowly. One of the beauties about being not well known, because I feel like a lot of the times we want to rush to be well known. We want to have, you know, we're using metrics which are not serving us. So, you know, we want to have 100,000 followers on Instagram and all of this kind of stuff. But you know, it's good when you start in obscurity, so that you can make all of the mistakes, so that you can figure out and tweak your system, tweak your business, so that when you do blow up, you know, you are not having to make mistakes and fall in public. So your mistakes will be smaller. So don't be afraid to start small, because the obscurity is actually a blessing, and no one gets to see all of those crazies and mashups and all of that. And then my final piece of advice is to show up with full energy. You know, when you're, especially when you're starting small, you know, you could, you know, we always think, okay, this business is going to be amazing. Everybody's going to love it. And, you know, it's going to be a success. And then when you do start, maybe, I don't know, you get 3 clients, like let's say a coach, or, you know, you get the numbers were not exactly what you had envisioned or projected in your business plan. But I still encourage you to show up 100%, because whatever energy you're giving to that business, and I guess it also goes in line with, is that business actually your purpose? Because it shouldn't matter whether you are serving 1 or 1,000, because it is your purpose. You wake up every day excited to do it. So show up with that full energy. And you know what? Sometimes you don't need 1,000 or hundreds of thousand people to actually get the money in the bank. Sometimes it just takes 30, 10, you know. Yeah. Be smart about it. So come with your full energy and you'll be good.
Fantastic advice, really useful, and I think everybody should go away and implement, particularly the last one. I think that's such useful advice. She's the Boss recommends. What book, podcast, or any other kind of media platform would you recommend that's had an impact on your life and your entrepreneurial journey?
So when I hit rock bottom, I found myself depressed, and I was in bed for 3 days. And, you know, I was just lying there, not really wanting to do anything, didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't bath. It was awful. And on the 3rd day, for whatever reason, and I wasn't really into podcasts at the time, but for whatever reason, I decided that I needed to listen to a podcast, and I looked for a podcast, and what I found was Redefining Wealth with Patrice Washington. And she talks about wealth as being well-being, because that's the original definition of it. So it's not so much about money, money, money. When you are more whole, holistically, the rest will follow. When you are chasing purpose, the rest will follow. And when I started listening to that podcast, she talks about, she's got 5 pillars, and one of the pillars is space. And in the space pillar, you know, your space can affect the way you are actually doing your work, you know. So you know, when you've got clutter and, you know, a dirty space, it's actually acting as like a block. And I heard that particular episode, and that's the day that I got up from where I was lying. I made my bed and I cleaned up, And I've been listening to that podcast since that day.
Wow, what a testimony for Patrice. That's amazing that you were able to. Well, I think it's amazing that you stumbled across it first and foremost when you was in that space. Nothing happens coincidentally. You were supposed to listen to that. I'm a big believer of that. So thank you so much for sharing. I've really enjoyed talking to you and finding out more about you and your business. If people want to find out more, want to connect with you, what platforms can they find you on?
Okay, so so my playground is Instagram, guys. You can find me on Instagram. I personally answer my personal page, which is Chulu_by-design. So just look Chulu by Design, you'll find it. We also have Africana Woman on Instagram, so Chulu by Design or Africana Woman. And from there, you will have the links to the rest, so to the podcast, to the blog, to the community. So if you're an entrepreneur and you think you need a community that can support you, come and join us. And yeah, so Chulu by Design, Africana Woman, you can search it on Instagram or Facebook, it will come up.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for your honesty and your openness. I really find it quite refreshing. And thank you guys, as usual, for listening, for watching. If anything that Chulu has said has resonated with you, which I'm sure it has, it's been fantastic hearing your experiences. Please make sure that you like, please make sure that you comment, share within your networks if there's anybody that you feel needs to hear this conversation. And as usual, make sure that you tune in next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. for another She's the Boss female entrepreneur story. And if you would like to be featured on She's the Boss, please drop me an email to Daniela@she'stheboss.intl. And if you know a man who has an interesting entrepreneurial journey, I am going to be introducing very soon He's the Boss. So entrepreneur stories from non-females. So if there's anyone that you want to recommend, also if you want to recommend yourself, because I know that there are a lot of men that listen to this, please drop me an email. And Chulu, once again, thank you. It's really been an honor to speak to you.
Thank you. I had fun.